lot of you, if you've taken out a mortgage or built a home or anything like that, it is staggering what we have to go through now. And we've become a litigious society. And part of the reason, in my view, is because a lot of people in power, and that could be politicians, regulators, agencies, they've never had a job. And I hate to tell you, that the real world is not the same thing as the theoretical world. And you know, there's that great quote, I forgot who said it, you know, in theory and practice are the same. In practice, they're not.
So if we're going to go back to your penning, as you might be doing soon, your 2026, as in two letter, it's a reflection on 2025, and you do the same if it were up to me. Mm-hmm. If it were up to you, what would you do right now for the Pentagon, for example?
For who? For
the Pentagon, or for like, what would you run roughshod through in terms of bureaucracy? What advice would you give?
Well, I think you've heard a lot already in this, you know, these successes I've heard, which is just, you know, they need to move. They can't do multi-year budgeting, so that kills you. That they can't give certain contracts on, they can't make things. And some people in the military told me the lack of ability to do that could cost them $50, $100 billion a year. So, you know, you can go on and on and on. Congress has to change certain rules and requirements that allow them to make decisions faster, do multi-year contracts, do something that allows you to have a second plant sitting idle, so if the country goes to war, you can make more Patriot missiles. You know, and we don't have that. You know, and you know, the game thing, there's public stuff. The military says if we have a real war in the Indo-Pacific, we run missiles in 7 days. Is that how we're going to run our system? And you know, you can leave a plant sitting empty, not sitting empty. You can leave a plant that has what it needs to build new missiles, but it's being used for another purpose, another commercial purpose. If you need it for war, you empty that out and you put in what you need for the missiles. And so we just need good policy, good thoughtful stuff, and people have really thought this stuff through. Some countries do a great job. You know, when we travel around the world, you see a lot of countries that have actually done some very smart things that we just need to replicate. Well, I think vocational training in Germany and Switzerland, younger people, like call it 18 to 30, unemployment rate is very low. Like in America, 70% do not go to college. And I think college, by the way, has less and less productive outcome. 70% go to college, but they learn skills. And these are real skills. They're not, you know, but even plumbing, electrical, anything you do in a plant, advanced manufacturing, you can advance up almost like an engineering degree, and you can go back to college. Unemployment, you know, 4%. In France, who's got these very tough labor laws, you know, if you want to fire someone, you have to pay them for like 5 years. Unemployment is among the 18 to 30 is 20%, and it's been that way for 2 generations now. It's just policy. And so one of the things we're going to write about is trying to push just good policy, educate people on good policy, and kind of make that a permanent thing in how we run our country.
I do want to pick up on something Jamie said before on bureaucracy and complacency. You asked, what would Jamie do to the Pentagon? Frankly, we've had to look ourselves in the mirror. In many cases, we've reflected some of that bureaucracy that we've seen in our customer, and we've gotten complacent in that way. And so we've had to take a good hard look at ourselves and say, well, wait a second, why do, you know, I can't go and blame the customer all the time for what's happening, or Congress or whatnot. We've layered some of that into our own processes, into our own infrastructure. How do we be more productive? How do we be more efficient? How do we be more agile? So it's a mindset change. It's a mindset change that I think that the Secretary is going to lay out I'm sure his vision later today that he has previously about agility and speed and whatnot. Those are the things in our company that we have to really take root.
How do you do that
one of the things that he's mentioned is this idea of like the 85% solution. Can you field an 85% solution and iterate to get it to 100%? We're not, generally speaking, wired that way. We're wired to probably give you 110% of the requirement, not 85 and iterate to the best. To the rest, excuse me. It's a mindset shift that we have to bring to bear. Now, there are certain things that you're going to have to be at that 100% level. There's certain exquisite technology that is going to be necessary to meet certain, you know, mission requirements. But there are other areas where I think we can take a little bit more risk in terms of the requirements and the specifications and work with our customers to say, hey, we can get this to you faster. It'll be 85% of the capability you're looking for, and we'll work with software upgrades, hardware upgrades over the next couple of years to get it to that 100%. That is a paradigm shift, and I think one that the Secretary is pushing, and we've got to pile in behind that.
We've got a big customer in the building, but you're a global company. So when you're thinking about your customers, we are not working in a silo. Defense spending is going higher in Europe in many ways because the US is pushing them there. Same thing is happening in Asia. Which countries are executing that well from your perspective, Chris?
Well, I don't know that anyone's executing it well. I think, again, I'll give the administration a lot of credit for pushing Europe to get to that 3.5% of GDP, pushing others to make sure that they've got the replenishment that they need. And so you're seeing global defense budgets rise as a result of that. And so I think, again, what we've got to continue to work with is, are there places where, with some of our partners and allies, it makes sense to do co-production or help set up sort of additional pieces of the supply chain, more locally.
Andrew did that in Australia, for example.
Absolutely. So are there continued opportunities to do that? We've done it successfully on certain programs, like Patriot in Poland and other places. Where else can we do that to help relieve bottlenecks?
I'm interested in the customer perspective. Are you seeing, Chris, Europe increasing their spend with you, or are they wanting to spend their budget, theoretical budget, with European defense companies?
Well, I think you hear them say some of the latter, but I think the reality is that if we want to make sure that we can meet the pace of the threat here, you're going to have to continue to ramp up with the existing
the ones that can do it.
But here's what I will say. There are plenty of partnerships that we do have with large European companies, for instance, where we will each make investments and invest in a complete system. We have a lot of very strong partnerships to be able to do that. So again, I'm trying not to look at it like a binary, by Europe, by US. There are places where, with partners and allies, we can develop a combined solution.
There's a lot of talk of partners and allies, Jamie, and you referenced that, this is why Europe got itself into its problems, but also then you're highlighting the strengths they have in their education system.
Some of the strengths, yes.
Some, Germany, Switzerland, two you called out. What do you think they will have made of the strategic announcement that we just had? The idea that, I think, civilization erasure was something that was named in the National Security Strategy published this week. Do you think Europe, from your perspective, wants to work with America right now?
I think Europe has a real problem. It's very hard to look at the world and we have moving tectonic plates. You've heard it spoken about. It's AI. The enemy's in the satellite up above and in your computer systems right now. And the world changed. The other tectonic plate is the rise of China, huge global deficits, social network programs that probably can't be maintained over a long period of time. So Europe has a problem. I think they accomplished an unbelievable thing when the Euro got together, the EC, and they said, let's live in peace and not war. They had World War I and World War II, but they had the Franco-Prussian Wars, the Napoleonic Wars, the 100 Years' War, the War of the Roses. And so living in peace is a good thing, but it got bogged down. They never finished the common market. It takes 27 nations, to make a decision. They let their military drop dramatically. It's very bureaucratic, which is why part of the reason that they lost Britain to the EU, which I think makes it bad for both of them, by the way. And so you got to be honest about this. So, and those tectonic plates may move over 20 years. But if we ever write a book about how the West was lost, it will be because of the following. It will be because of we didn't get our act together here, and we go through all the policies here, that we didn't have the strongest military in the world, and that we allowed Europe to fall apart. And so I have a slightly different point of view about Europe. They have some wonderful things, but they've gone from 90% of the GDP of America to 65. That's not because America did anything bad to them. It's their own bureaucracy, their own costs, they do some wonderful things on their safety nets, but they've driven business out, they've driven investment out, they've driven innovation out. It's kind of coming back. I think the leadership, Merz, Macron, Maloney, Starmer, I think they know. I just think politics is really, really hard. Therefore, the fragmentation of Europe, if they fragment, that's exactly what some of our adversaries want. They want to go back to a world like that, and then you kind of have a world that was like it was before World War I, everybody out for themselves. Everyone's got different national security interests, whether it's food or energy or water, and China is a huge country who wants to do bilateral negotiations with every country. If they fragment, then you could say that that America first will not be around anymore. It will hurt us more than anybody else because they are a major ally in every single way, including common values, which are really important. So therefore, I think we should be using our American capability, strength, coercion, democracy, trade, investment, to urge them to do what's in their own self-interest, which is military and the economic is equally important. You know, if they go to 60% of our GDP, then 55, then 50, they won't be able to afford the military. They'll have more polarization. They won't be able to afford their safety nets, et cetera. So I think we need a long-term strategy to help them become strong. A weak Europe is bad for us, it's bad for the civilized world, it's bad for the free and democratic world.
You are that trade with RTX, and you have significant presence in the UK. And you have, I see the deals that are just being announced with you, it's one in Canada, one in Australia. You are still, in this day and age, a globalized company. So, Chris, are you optimistic that we won't see that fragmentation in Europe? That you can increase, you will see prime winning out from the Western world wanting to increase their budgets?
I just think that, and we'll start with Europe, I just think there is benefit in all of us working off of the same set of equipment in terms of interoperability and cooperation. Jamie's right, we travel around, we talk to folks in these countries. I see a real willingness to want to ramp up, to want to replenish, to want to get to the NATO commitments. And again, there's a lot of things that we all know about that they have not aligned around in terms of Ukraine and support of Ukraine and funding and the like, but I do see a general consensus around the need to take defense up and to make that a reality.
And they have some amazing startups. I think of Helsing that's happening in Germany. Where is the puck moving from your perspective in terms of innovation now, Chris? Where is it that you think the rest of the room needs to really start thinking about allocating or really be going that extra 15% that isn't quite built yet?
Well, look, on the technology side, and I'm sure there are people up on the stage before who talked about this, but in terms of defense, clearly AI and autonomy. How do you get decision-making in the field and at the edge at a pace and an acceleration that it needs? How can you have some of our systems do its own discrimination, its own rerouting? So AI and autonomy, I think, are going to be two huge pieces for defense. Now, again, I'll go back to the advanced manufacturing. I know it's not as sexy as some of the other things that we're talking about here.
Advanced manufacturing is very sexy.
If you want to be able to scale, as Jamie said, like having stockpiles, that is deterrence. If you really want to get there, then we've got to find different ways to scale the type of manufacturing that we need in this country, and frankly, with our partners and allies as well.
How much time do we have, Jamie?
Oh, you mean time tonight? You hear it?
No, I'm seeing 2 minutes. How much time do we have to get this right? If we're sat here next year, 2026, will we have needed to execute on a lot of what you're already saying? Do we have until 2030?
My view is we have 5 years. And so I'm not, it's not today, but when you say 5 years, it means you got to start doing the right thing today. So I'd say 5 years.
Would you feel that similar time frame, Chris? Do you feel that sense of urgency that 5 years and to really ensure that we've got the strength, the military might that we?
I'm thinking like now, where we sit with our backlog and we're in the commitments that we've made to our customers. Like our head is down, ramping now.
Got to start now. That's important. No one has a divine right to success. So I don't care if you're a city or a business or a country. You got to always say the world's changing, and if you want to be successful, you got to change with it. And we can all want the world we want, but we got the world we got. And it's a complicated, tough place, so it's now. It's now.
One optimistic.
I mean, we still have a major war in Europe. Yeah. I mean, this is, and I consider that is freedom being fought for us right now. And I think we have to take that very seriously because some wars last for 10 or 15 or 20 years. And you talk about nuclear power and nuclear threats. This is very different than we've dealt with in the past, and I would take it extremely seriously in the here and now. And
if we're all going to move, what we want is people to move away and feel that they've got a sense of urgency, something that they can do. Is there one piece of advice or thought that you want people to exit this room with?
Do what you can. I mean, the whole effort we're doing was because you said, instead of complaining about it, what can we do about it?